Okay, guys, good evening here where we are, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. So I'm back again. This is going to be a daily broadcast, 10 o'clock GMT. I've started a little bit earlier just to make sure that I've set everything up and just so that I can wait for people that want to start on time or who are expecting that will start exactly at 10 o'clock. So in the meantime, if you are there and you're watching and you want to let me know that you're watching, you can just put a comment, or you can just like the page, or just like the broadcast. So we are moving on, and I just wanted to talk about this event, which is going to be taking place in Mutare. It's called the Shinga Mutare Dream Conference. It's taking place on the 2nd of December. And the 2nd of December is, when is the 2nd? Today is Wednesday, the 9th, the 29th. So on Saturday, Friday is the 1st. So Saturday it will be the 2nd. Okay, so on Saturday, there's going to be this conference in Mutare. It's called the Mutare Dream Conference. It's being run by my friend Zivai Desire. He's on Facebook. You can go to this page, the Mutare Dream Conference page. And there's also a page called Shinga, which he's running. So what is it? What is the Mutare Dream? So Mutare has a lot of opportunities that need to be exploited. The dream is to identify these opportunities and create new companies that create jobs. Therefore, the Mutare Dream is about making Mutare a land of opportunity, entrepreneurship, and job creation. The objectives are to create a platform for engagement between the younger generation and the older generation. Empower young people to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. Impact young people with knowledge on how to make their dreams a reality. And how do we do that? Or how do they do that? Create impactful events, conferences, meetups, etc. to help advance the dream. And I think the main thing there is that these conferences, meetups, etc. are an opportunity for people to make new connections, okay, to interact and to make new partners, new business partners, share ideas. Identify key partners in all sectors to realize the dream. Diverse team is a diverse team with different expertise in different fields. Okay, so there you go. And these are the people, I think, the Power Universe, Power 0.020 Universe is an entertainment website, and they are supporting this conference. Then you have the WASU, which is a manipulating people and alternative media to tell stories at their own viewpoints. So Mutare people telling their own stories through this WASU, the WASU media platform, okay, media news company. Then Shinga Space is a community organization. At Shinga, starting up is a habit, building is a daily activity, and sustainable growth embeds itself in everything they do. They offer a variety of services that make starting a business simpler and inspire innovation. Okay, so there are 11 posts in the discussion, and that's Shinga there. So you can go to Facebook and look for Mutare Dream Conference, and you will come up with this. Then you can show your interest, you can invite your friends, and you can email them to find out more. So far, 33 people are going, 112 are interested. So I think by Saturday, they're going to have a full house. Okay, so that's the Mutare Dream Conference. I think I'll just leave it up here a bit because I'll probably talk about it at the end again. Okay, so for those that are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. We are talking about Bitcoin again today, and the blockchain and the whole technology behind the Bitcoin. And as you can see today, 28th November, there was a report on Bloomberg.com what Bitcoin watchers are saying after the surge past $10,000. So the Bitcoin has gone past the $10,000 mark. So Bitcoin tops $10,000 mark for the first time. And Bitcoin entered uncharted territory on Wednesday after breaching $10,000 for the first time, leaving investors to wonder how long the rally will go and whether it will end in tears. So is it a bubble? Is this what is happening? I think that when you look at the way that the Bitcoin has been going up, I think there's a graph somewhere here. Okay, there's a graph. So in January, if you look at this graph here, in January it was below $2,000 in January of 2017. So it was probably around 1,000 in January. And then it's been going almost steadily from January until about May, when it started to go up. In June, it had gone past the $2,000 mark, and in July, by the middle of July, it seemed to be coming down again. Then it started going up. Then it reached a peak in an all-time high, ATH. So an ATH is an all-time high. So there was an all-time high of about almost 5,000, and then it gone down to maybe 3,000, and then it started going up and up and up and up and up and up and up until 10,000, and today it's actually gone past the $10,000 mark. So is it a bubble? Is it something that's going to come down? We don't know yet, because you cannot really predict. But I'll tell you what, there are people who are predicting that it's going to go up to as much as 40,000, okay, by the end of 2018. So it's up to you whether you want to start investing in this or you don't. It's independent. It's your own independent choice and decision to make. But let's look at what happened here. For example, mid-May, global hackers demand ransom paid in Bitcoin. Then it started going up. So when something like that happens, there's a lot of attention which comes into the Bitcoin itself. A lot of attention, because everybody's talking about it. So it started going up, and then here Bitcoin splits into two variants. So there was something called a surge, something like that, where there was a split of the Bitcoin into two, where one group wants to follow the old rules of the blockchain, and the new group is following new rules, and so you get two different coins that come up from that. Okay. Then China announces crackdown on digital currencies. So when they made that announcement, there was a dip, because China is a big economy, and when China talks, something happens. Then Goldman Sachs looks at Bitcoin trading venture. So when Goldman starts looking at a Bitcoin trading venture, Goldman is a respected financial services company. Okay, so when they make that announcement, that the Bitcoin starts going up from the middle of September, October. I think they made that in October actually, and then it starts going up November. It's going up, and then it comes down a little bit here. Let's see what happened here. CME Group unveils plan for Bitcoin futures. So Bitcoin futures means now that the Bitcoin will probably start getting some stability. Now, to understand what is going on here, you have to be aware that there has been in fact, the history of money is such that, for example, fiat currencies, paper money as we know it today, is reported to have taken at least 400 years to become mainstream, for people to really accept it, to say, okay, we accept that we can use this piece of paper instead of the gold that we were used to using, because before that they were using minerals. They were using gold, silver, and other items for barter trade. Then somebody came up with the idea of a piece of paper which is going to represent the actual gold which is in the bank vault. And obviously people did not appreciate that there was an equivalence between the actual gold that they are used to and this piece of paper which they're now being given. So you can see that the struggles of Bitcoin are the same struggles that any kind of money is going to face, no matter what. So this is a new concept. In fact, Bitcoin is the new language of value exchange. Okay? So money is the language that we use to exchange value between the products we want and the products that we have. So if I want a car, for example, or if I wanted maybe a bucket of maize corn, for example, in the old days, I could swap that with a goat. Okay, that was barter trade. But now, instead of doing barter trade, instead of doing that, I will get money and use money to buy the bucket of corn. And then if the person that I bought the bucket of corn from wants to buy a goat, they can use that money to then buy a goat. But basically what we've done is we've exchanged a goat for a bucket of corn, but we've gone through third parties, or it's taken a different route. Instead of a direct route, it's taken a different route. Okay, because it's not always the case that if I want a bucket of maize corn, the person with the maize corn will always want a goat. They might want something else. So money was a solution. Paper money was a solution to all the barter trade which was taking place. Just like the Bitcoin is a solution to all the problems that we're facing with money, and there are so many of these problems. Okay, so that is the case. Now, let's see what happens here. Bitcoin plunges 29% after tech upgrade cancellation. So there was a tech upgrade. I was waiting for this to happen. It did not happen. And soon after that, after the 29%, it started going up again. Okay, so it's been a wild ride. Now, those people who are skeptical about the Bitcoin will tell you that it's just a bubble. It's all going to end in a nightmare. Okay, it's waiting to burst. But Hay says Bitcoin may reach 50,000 by the end of 2018. So where does this value of Bitcoin come from? Why is it so valuable? Now, to understand the value of Bitcoin, you have to understand the way that Bitcoin is made. So how is Bitcoin made? Well, this is what happens. It's made through a process called mining. Okay, so what is mining? Mining is the process of securing a Bitcoin network. Okay, and the Bitcoin network is based on a blockchain. Okay, so what is a blockchain? A blockchain is a chain of blocks. That's what a blockchain is. And what is in those blocks is just information which has been recorded about transactions which are happening between human beings. So it could be a transaction where a cup of coffee is being bought. So if you buy a cup of coffee, okay, that transaction is placed in a block, and that block may contain other transactions. And those transactions are then closed in that block, and then the next transactions are put in the next block. Okay, so what happens when the cup of coffee is bought is that information is broadcast to the network of miners. Okay, and when the miners receive that information because it has been broadcast. So you are in a shop, in Starbucks, you buy your cup of coffee, you use Bitcoin, that transaction is broadcast, but before it's broadcast, it's converted into a mathematical equation. That mathematical equation is then sent out to all the Bitcoin miners. Simultaneously, their computers start guessing. They start guessing at what the answer is to that equation. Okay? The computer which comes up with the correct guess is rewarded with Bitcoin. So that's how the Bitcoin is mined. So by solving that mathematical problem, the winning computer has recorded that transaction, and that transaction cannot be changed by anyone, as opposed to if I was sitting in my coffee shop with a piece of paper with a ledger in which I was recording the goings in and out, okay, and all the transactions taking place. Somebody could come and change it, okay, if I was just using paper. But on the blockchain, nobody can change it, okay, so the blockchain is the technology behind the Bitcoin, okay. So that's why it's such a secure network, because encryption is used in order to make sure that the information is kept safe. So there are many applications to this blockchain, and not just the financial side. The financial side is just one of the platforms. It's just one of the applications. Now, to understand what I mean by this, what I can do for you guys is to look at the internet and then to look at the blockchain and compare the two. Now, the blockchain is an upgrade to the internet. So what does that mean? What that means is, for example, on the internet, you have applications which are running on the internet. And some of these applications, for example, email, is running on the internet. Voice over internet, VoIP, like Skype, is running on the internet. You have applications like websites which are running on the internet. So you've got so many applications which can run on the internet. Okay? So just like you have those applications running on the internet, you also have applications running on the blockchain. Now, these applications may include cryptocurrencies, of which Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. So what is a cryptocurrency? A cryptocurrency is an encrypted digital currency. And what is a digital currency? A digital currency is a currency which only exists in digital form. Okay, so there you go. It exists in digital form, it's encrypted, therefore it's a cryptocurrency. So that's one application of blockchain. There are other applications in education, in healthcare, even in insurance, even in construction. The construction industry is coming up with applications which are placing all the transactions, all the drama which is taking place in an industry can be placed on a blockchain so that you remove third parties. Now, what are third parties? Third parties are things like banks. Okay, so cryptocurrency is replacing banks. A voting application on the blockchain is replacing the government agency which is responsible for running voting, for example. Okay, so that's what this is all about, right? So this this first one was just in reaction to what's happening with the price of Bitcoin. Whether you should buy or not, I don't know. But I will tell you what, when this Bitcoin started, okay, it was worth less than 10 cents. And now it's worth more than $10,000. So it's up to you whether you want to get involved or not. But to get involved, please listen to my videos, learn about Bitcoin first before you plunge into it, or before you join these groups which tell you that these pyramid schemes which promise you a lot of money. Okay, so you need to make sure that first of all you understand what this technology is all about. Okay, so let's put this one in the archives. And we've already talked about the Entire Dream Conference. Okay, I'll probably just talk about it again at the end. Let's see what happens if I remove this. This thing was working properly just a few minutes ago. Anyway, let's leave it for now. So Bitcoin surges through 11,000 less than 24 hours. So we've talked about this in the other article. So I'll just go to the next article. How to buy Bitcoin when you're underage. Okay. So if you want your kids to be involved on the blockchain, there are ways in which you can do this. They are underage, but they are also overeducated. Okay, so they probably know more about Bitcoin than adults. And I'll tell you what, when kids are playing video games, there are tokens that they win on video games, and the token, that sort of model, okay, that sort of model in a gamified fashion, that model is the same idea with Bitcoin because it's based on winning tokens. So the tokens represent something. So for example, if kids are playing on a video game in which they have to buy certain things in order to become better at that game, they use a currency which is related or which is specific to that game, and that currency is given a name. But actually, when your kids are asking you to buy them, these tokens, they actually use real money. So maybe let's say it costs £10. So if it costs £10, it means maybe each one is each one costs say 10p. So 10 of them would be £1. So if you bought £10, you probably get 100. Say you get 100 of the tokens in the money of that video game. So if they get 100 of that money, 100 units of the money, they use it within the video game, but we've actually paid £10 for it in real money. Okay, so this is the same idea with Bitcoin, in that it is a digital form of currency, and you can use it in the digital realm. But if you wanted to convert it into fiat currency, you can. Okay, and at this rate, that's why the Bitcoin is worth 10,000, which means if you have one Bitcoin, you have $10,000. So apparently, eBay is one place where you can actually buy Bitcoin. Okay, so you can buy Bitcoin on eBay. You can buy from a Bitcoin ATM. And what's a Bitcoin ATM? It's a place where you can buy Bitcoin. Okay, and then you have localbitcoins.com. That's another place. Technically, the same rules that govern cryptocurrency exchanges also apply to sites like localbitcoins.com. Basic verification is easily achievable, however, and once complete, you're free to buy and sell peer-to-peer, P2P. Okay, so P2P exchanges, local cryptocurrency groups, Amazon gift cards. Okay, but should I be buying Bitcoin? Well, you know what? These kids they are growing up with Bitcoin. So if they start asking you about Bitcoin, you better be prepared to answer their questions, because they're going to be asking you about Bitcoin. But I don't want to dwell too much on this, because I know a lot of people still don't understand it, and for you to ask them to ask their kids to get involved is a bit too early. I think you need to understand it first as the adults before you can hand it over to your children. Okay, so here is a regulatory roundup. South Korea says laissez-faire, Zimbabwe dislikes, and Singapore to regulate. Okay, so governments are really struggling with the blockchain because It is a technology which is trying to replace it. The blockchain is trying to replace government, because government is a third party to everything that you are trying to do, to the way that you want to live your lives. The government is right there, okay, trying to control everything. For example, banking. In banking, the government is in the way because the government owns the central bank. Well, the central bank might be owned by some individual, okay, but it still belongs to the government. The government is the one which is making policies, monetary policies, and they are actually using the central bank to control money supply. Okay, so in Zimbabwe, which is what I want to really look at, South Korea is laissez-faire about it. Zimbabwe doesn't like it, and Singapore wants to regulate. Now, regulation is a problem because regulation is difficult. If you try to regulate a decentralized system, when you don't have control over it, then it's difficult for that regulation to really work. Okay, so let's see what's happening in Zimbabwe. I'm actually interested in Zimbabwe. So the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe states that Bitcoin is not actually legal. So Norman Mataruka, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe's RBZ Director and Registrar of Banking Institutions, has told reporters that Bitcoin is not legal. Mr. Mataruka stated, in terms of the Bitcoin, as far as we are concerned, it is not actually legal. In Southern Africa, that's the problem though, because the Bitcoin does not ask for your permission. So the Bitcoin does not ask for permission, and I don't know in what sense it is not legal. Maybe means it's not legal tender in shops, but if one person accepts the Bitcoin and I have Bitcoin, that transaction can take place and the government will never find out, okay? Because that transaction is peer-to-peer and it's a decentralized system, so they'll never find out that transaction has actually taken place. In Southern Africa, what we have done as regulators, we have said that we will not allow this in our markets. Okay, but the thing is, Bitcoin does not ask for permission to be in those markets. It just starts operating in those markets. If there are people with Bitcoin and there are people who accept Bitcoin, that's it. Research is currently being undertaken to ascertain the challenges and risks associated with these particular products, and until we have actually established and come up with a legal and regulatory framework for them, it will not be allowed. I think instead of looking at Bitcoin with the intention of a regulatory and legal framework, what the government should be doing is to try to understand the blockchain, try to understand Bitcoin. Understand it first, not because you want to regulate it, but because you want to understand it. Because that's what some governments are doing. They're trying to understand this. They're trying to see if they can introduce their own cryptocurrency. Some banks have actually done this in other countries. They've actually they've actually included cryptocurrency as part of the bank accounts of their customers. I think that's happened somewhere in Asia. I can't remember which country it is, but that's already happening. So instead of just being skeptical, I think they should be trying to learn about blockchain, because that is the future. The future is blockchain, and they have to understand it. If you don't understand blockchain, by the time it goes mainstream, then it's going to be difficult for you to understand it and to adopt it. Okay, so I think it's incumbent upon these guys to look at it. So although Mr. Mataruka failed to clarify if he meant that the possession and use of Bitcoin was illegal, or simply that Bitcoin does not comprise a legally recognized currency, which I think the latter should be the case, Mr. Mataruka. In the state of Zimbabwe, it is unlikely that the RBZ can spare the resources required to attempt to uphold prohibitive cryptocurrency regulations given Zimbabwe's current political turmoil. Okay, I don't think it's to do with the political turmoil. I think it's just to do with the kind of technology that is needed to block all the cryptocurrency wallets which may be running on people's smartphone devices. Okay. Okay, so that's that. I think there's something else on Zimbabwe which I would like to address. Let me put this one in the archives. This one is archived. Leave the entire dream there. And then come down to Zimbabwean Bitcoin exchange Golix processes $1 million monthly. Now profitable. Okay. So this is in Zimbabwe. The Bitcoin exchange in Zimbabwe is called Golix. Golix.io. Over the past few months, as the cash crisis in Zimbabwe continues to persist, the appetite for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin included, has increased fourfold. Zimbabwean cryptocurrency exchange Golix.io has announced that from its seemingly ambitious targets of wanting to process 1 million worth of transactions in total historic value, that in the month of October 2017, the exchange handled over $1 million alone. Taking this into perspective, the exchange processed a total of 100,000 the whole of 2016. Right, so the whole of 2016, 100,000. October 2017, 1 million in just 1 month. Okay, so you can see that there is demand. And one of the objectives of the blockchain and of cryptocurrencies and of Bitcoin is to solve all of the problems, or most of the problems, that fiat currencies are facing, that central banks are facing, that certain governments are struggling with. So, for example, the government of Zimbabwe has been struggling economically. It's been struggling with liquidity of cash in the system, in the economy of Zimbabwe. They've been struggling, and so the blockchain or the Bitcoin comes as a solution to those problems, because that's what the history of money has always been about. The history of money has always been about a new form of money replacing an older form of money, because it's solving the problems of the older form of money. So that's always been the case, and it is the case in this case. Now, the blockchain is more revolutionary. In fact, it's more evolutionary than revolutionary, because what it's doing is that it is not only replacing the monetary system, but it is replacing the entire record-keeping system. Okay, so record-keeping has always needed a third party to guarantee some form of trust, because the people and businesses, for example, if you're let's say that you want to get a mortgage. In order to get that mortgage, you need to go to a bank. The bank needs to be, you need to pay back to the bank, because the developer of the house, okay, they get paid in cash by the bank. Then you enter into a contract with the bank, because the contractor does not trust that you're going to pay them, which is why there's a new blockchain application in the United States which is targeting the construction industry. Okay, which means they are sorting out all of the things which are delaying, which are causing delays or friction within the construction industry. So this is what that cash crisis is a reason why the price of Bitcoin in Zimbabwe is almost double what it is in other places. Okay, so Golex is just the exchange which is processing those transactions. Okay, so possible reasons for blockchain, for Bitcoin demand in Zimbabwe. So getting money out of Zimbabwe has been a challenge for the past 6 months as banks and financial institutions close or restrict avenues, with some reducing the amounts that one can transact. So it's your money, but guess what? Somebody, banks and financial institutions, are closing or restricting those avenues. But it's your money, right? And you should be the person who determines where to place your money. But there's a third party called a financial institution, called a bank, which is closing or restricting those avenues for you to get money out of Zimbabwe, because there are so many things that are not available in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is importing a lot of products. And because of that, they need that money out of Zimbabwe. Now, the only way to get it out is through a cryptocurrency. So some are reducing the amounts that one can transact. So they decide for you because they hold it, because it's a centralized system. So they have your money. If they have your money, they decide how much to give you. Okay. But if you're on the blockchain, if you're using cryptocurrencies, you are the bank. So you decide what you do with your money, while others are totally calling for customers to pre-fund their account with US dollars. So as Zimbabwe is in a net importer, we used to import just about everything. Businesses are in need of hard currency in order to restock their supplies, and so tend to the ever-diminishing black market to enable them to continue to operate. The situation is not made any easier, with banks announcing that they will not be issuing forex to non-exporters, even though the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has a priority list in place that determines who should be given forex first when there are limited funds. Right, so adding to the demand has been students want to pay for their education, as well as individuals want to buy personal items like cars. So those are the problems in Zimbabwe which are causing a greater demand for Bitcoin. So though not all suppliers have take cryptocurrency as a method of payment, most Zimbabweans believe that as long as they can convert their money into a form that is not losing value. So imagine that in Zimbabwe, a cryptocurrency which is volatile in other places, which is going up and down, fluctuating on a daily, hourly basis, is actually a better store of value in a country like Zimbabwe, where the actual fiat currency is more volatile than the cryptocurrency. So yes, Bitcoin does fluctuate and lose value, but recent events point towards it rushing towards 10,000 by the end of the year, and it's done that already. So not by the end of the year, but already that's happened. So by the end of the year, we could be looking at more than 10,000, maybe 15, who knows, maybe double. So those that buy Bitcoin find it easier to move money out of the country, and will work on finding a way to convert it to fiat and pay for their products. So they can always change it to fiat once it's out of the country. Right. So let's see if there's any. There was something here. Order book. Value of transactions. No, I don't get that. Okay. So I wanted to just mention that, and that's their website, Golex. If you want to visit them, it's golex.com. There it is. There. Okay. Then one more item on Zimbabwe. So Bitcoin saw stock market rises in post-Mugabe Zimbabwe. This was by Reuters, and it's yesterday's news. So let's see if there's anything of interest here. I've probably mentioned everything already. So the stock market lost about 6 billion in the week after military takeover. Okay, so those kind of things where there is not a stable political and an economic environment, you get Bitcoin becoming an alternative, because, like I mentioned earlier, Bitcoin is trying to solve the problem of money, where the government is not organized enough to make sure that there is enough money in the system, or we have people who are underbanked because they don't have enough money, they don't earn enough to really take advantage of all the banking privileges that you get, for example, personal loans and mortgages and stuff like that. But there are people who are utterly unbanked, and those are the people that are being targeted. They don't have a bank account, but they have a smartphone, and with that smartphone they can download a Bitcoin wallet or a cryptocurrency wallet, and you can send them Bitcoin, and they can start using their mobile phones to make payments to those retailers who accept the cryptocurrency. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end it here for today, and then we can talk about these other things tomorrow. Right, so before I go, okay, just to remind you that there is this conference taking place in Mutare. It's being run by Desire and his friends. They are running this Mutare conference. I think I'll just go to the Facebook page instead. So here it is on the Facebook page. Mutare Dream Conference on the 2nd of December, hosted by Power O2O Universe. I've already liked them. That's good. And it's on Saturday, 3 days from now, at Mutare Hall, Queen's Hall, Shinga Space. These are some of the speakers: Amanda Ranganawa, Kido Makope, 4-Bit Fam, Richard Shawandira, Leonard Muyambo. So these are some of the guys. And Rob Fadzo Dunira, Joseph Sananga. I quite like the design of this design. I think you've done well with it. Shinga Space, Mutare Dream. Okay, so you can also like that page, Shinga Space. I've already liked it. And this is just an event. So it's not an actual page, this one. Just an event. Okay. Thought it was a page actually, but anyway. So that's it, guys, for today. Thank you for watching. I will see you again. Guys, if you have questions on the blockchain, because I do a better job, okay, if I have questions. In fact, let me just check to see if there's anything here before I go. Okay, on Facebook, there is one, Bitcoin News. Okay, that's just somebody who has put a link there. Chad Tiloston, thank you for the link. I don't know what the link is about. Okay, that's the only comment I see for now, but it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. So the other thing before I go, what I'm going to do is put this, I'm actually going to put the video on YouTube as well. It's going to be here on Facebook, but I'm also going to put it on YouTube, so you can still watch it there. And you can tell your friends, and you can ask me questions there on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin. A lot of you are used to the Bitcoin, so we'll talk about that, and then also the blockchain. So next time we're gonna talk a little bit about this decentralized home rental platform and what's going on with the Bitcoin in different areas of the world. Okay, so thank you for listening. I will see you in the next video.